we know acutely that it is the social support, the social infrastructure that's going to support someone. Someone's not going to care about their hypertension if they're hungry, right? And if you can focus on both of those problems and scale a business around those problems, then we can only go up from here. And I'm just so proud to be working with this organization, because not only are we supporting leaders internally, giving them platforms to share messages like this, but then also continuing to invest back in our communities, continuing to put on community events where we provide resources, where we go to people's homes. That's one of the coolest things that we're doing right now is someone says, I'm hungry, great. Pair Team's gonna come and we're gonna bring you a grocery bag because that's what you need today. And we're gonna provide you with that need. And that's just like the coolest thing.
Welcome back to another episode here on the Hart Hustle Podcast. From navigating cancer patients to the system, flipping the script on how we care for underserved communities, Megan Carlson doesn't just talk equity. She builds it, and she's doing it inside a tech startup. Let's get into it. Miss Megan, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. How about you?
I'm doing amazing. So talk about us. How do you get into you going from one place to the other? They're both in the giving space, but there's kind of a little change there. How you get there?
Yeah, I really focused on my gut, where like my passion lies. And as you said, started initially working with cancer patients here in North Carolina, and then led me to a startup, also working with individuals that needed help navigating resources. But at the core of what I do and why I ended up at Pair Team was just really recognizing that our most vulnerable communities are the ones that need the most support. And if I had to do anything with my life, it was going to be to serve that purpose and that mission.
Was there ever a time where you thought, especially when you were kind of in that cancer patient health space, where you thought the system is broken, but I still have to show up? And how did you handle that situation?
Yeah, I mean, it's so, especially when you're working with individuals that are in cancer treatment and their families are supporting them and navigating them through that. The last thing on their minds often is, well, how am I going to get the transportation to my radiology appointments? I live 2 hours away from the hospital. Who's going to drive me? Oh, and also I still need to show up at work. So how am I going to support myself financially? And it's all of those, what now we know as social drivers of health. That's when I really started to recognize there wasn't enough attention being paid to that, especially in supporting patients and navigating those resources, because it is, there's so many nonprofits in our communities that are providing them, but actually connecting with those organizations, receiving those services is fragmented, and it's difficult to navigate. And so they are often the populations that need the most support from individuals, not only like myself, but also organizations like Pair Team.
What was missing? What was it that the Pair Team filled? You left for a challenge and then you ended up at Pair Team. Yeah. What was that missing thing that they were able to fill your cup with?
Yeah, I think what I recognized, and especially when in the startup space or in the health tech space, there's so many organizations, for-profit entities that are focused on doing good. And that's always at the core of their mission. But what I noticed and what I was drawn to with Pair Team is that even under the covers, they turned words into action. And it really was developing a care team that was focused on whole person care and providing the highest touch support to the members that needed the most. And I remember initially seeing their website and being like, wow, like they're doing really powerful work. And I thought, I want to go there. I want to amplify that message. I want to attract more partners in the community to supporting that work, because especially in California, there's so many people that are in need, and there's so many programs that we want them to benefit from. And the Medi-Cal program and the Enhanced Care Management program is one of them in California. And so for me, starting the beginning of my career, literally developing paper resource sheets, updating those every single week. I mean, when I left that position, I was on like version 49 of that resource sheet. I remember, and it's because I was always updating because nonprofits really trying to understand their capacity to serve, the resources that they have, if they're able to continue to sustain funding. That's always a moving needle, and it's hard to kind of like figure out exactly how to have a resource where people are able to leverage it in a way that's sustainable and dependable. And so coming from that, now working with an organization that really builds long-lasting and trusted relationships with our community members, that's the key. I think you can
Yeah.
have a paper resource, you can have a technology all day long, but if you're lacking the foundation of working very closely with nonprofits and community-based organizations and listening more than you're talking, understanding what do they need, how can we support them because they're supporting the members that need it the most, that's the fundamental truth that we have to stay true to and that we always have to hold ourselves accountable to.
You know what I love is that you didn't just chase a title; you really was chasing impact.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Yeah, my family has always been in acts of service. My
Mm,
mom was an EMT when I was growing up. My stepdad was a firefighter. My dad works at our local hospital. My stepmom is our cancer center director. And so
wow.
just in the full gamut, I always grew up with this knowledge of like, I want to give back in some way. And so, yeah, being in service of others is like the best way I know how to do that.
I love it. I love that you come from a family with that background. It definitely shows why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you could kind of just break it down for us, how exactly does Pair Team fit in this big, messy healthcare puzzle, especially today when we don't know what's really happening with kind of, Democrat, Republicans fighting each other, all these things getting
Yeah.
into place. I can imagine there's a lot of changes happening.
There's a lot of changes in like the grander scheme of politics in the world, of course. But at the end of the day, no matter which side of the aisle that you're coming from, there's always going to be people in your community that need support. There's always going to be vulnerable populations that aren't able to access resources like the rest of us may be able to access. And so really Pair Team positions ourselves not necessarily picking a side, but ultimately
Mhm.
like picking the people in need. That's what we're centering ourselves. That is how we structure our mission. That is how we structure our teams and what we're supporting. That's how we structure and are going to develop products that support our nonprofit partners. Because at the end of the day, we need to support them and reaching more community members, driving more value to their organization and
Mhm.
enhancing their mission. When I talk to our community partners, you often hear from nonprofits, mission-oriented work, which is so valuable. But what I always tell them is that, no money, no mission. And so I want to deliver both. Both can be true. We can expand your mission and help you serve more individuals. And we can also help your organization stay around, drive sustainable funding to your organization. And that's really like the goal of Pair Team from our Pair Impact Network, which is our community care hub. We are intentional about recruiting partners into this network that are providing high quality services like housing navigation, food assistance, food boxes, things like that, transportation, financial assistance, employment support. Those are the core domains that we really focus on when we're building our network. And those organizations are everywhere.
Mhm.
And so that's at the crux of our mission is to build a network that is touching the individuals where they need them the most. And I think the critical thing we always have to remember about nonprofits is that they are building trust in their communities, not because they have a checkbox that says, oh, you need to build trust, but like they are just innately built for that. They are
Mhm.
meeting these members exactly where they are. They are in the communities providing monthly grocery bag drop offs. I mean, that is like the core of what they do. And so being able to partner with them, listening to them, is how Pair Team has been able to build its reputation as an organization that's deeply ingrained in the community and overall improving health outcomes.
And it's a little different, right? You have for profit working with nonprofits, and I can imagine that there's maybe individuals, folks that hear it and think to myself, why should they trust that model? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say I consider Pair Team and how I talk about us is that we are the for-profit that stands up for nonprofits, and we really do put our money where our mouth is there, not only by continuing to drive revenue back into community organizations, which is unique. Often
Mm,
for-profits will have community organizations earn their platform or join their programs, but are they actually paying them for that work? And we're able to do that here at Pair Team. Additionally, we are hiring a local care teams. Our care team, whether it's our LCSWs or our RNs, they are from the communities in which they serve. They have lived experience and similar backgrounds as the patients that they are serving. That is how we're bridging trust, and that is how we're being intentional and also culturally competent with the care that we're delivering. For example, our community outreach team, they are bilingual. They are able to work with individuals that speak Spanish, and that makes them more locally and explicitly attuned to serve their needs because they're very familiar with any of the struggles or any of the hazards that these patients have experienced in navigating a social care system that's extremely fragmented.
Is there a moment where you worked with a local partner and they said, you actually get us? And it just allowed you to know that, man, this model is actually working.
Yeah. So you think about those moments in your career where you really realize, oh, like I'm in the right place. And my moment was when we had the recent federal funding freeze. It was very scary for our nonprofits. There was a period of about 24 hours where no one knew what was going to happen. Were we going to lose everything from the perspective of community-based organizations? And so I immediately picked up the phone and I started just like going down the list, calling all of our partners. And that was the moment where, when I was reaching out to them, they were surprised. They said, oh, like, of course, on the surface, we have our account meetings and we like talk about our KPIs, et cetera, but that can be like very quantitative and maybe feel a bit out of touch. But the fact that I reached out and I called them and I said, first of all, how are you doing? How are you feeling?
Mm-hmm.
What are you worried about? And ultimately, at the end of the day, like, how can we support? And we sent out a survey to our partners. What other programs can we provide to you that's going to drive more revenue into your organization? How can we amplify your voice? And that was the moment that I got the feedback of like, oh, like, I'm really happy that you reached out. I didn't expect you to from like a position of a for-profit, but I'm so excited. And that really was like the bridge for all of our organizations ever since that inflection point where we actually showed up for them. The relationships have been stronger. More partners are coming to the table wanting to join. And for me in my career, that's the moment where I was like, I'm in the exact right place that I need to be.
Yeah, I think as I speak to those nonprofit CEOs and leaders, I think we're in a space where we are seeing a lot of fear. These smaller organizations trying to figure out what's next for them, whether it's merging with bigger organizations, whether they're just going away in general. So something like you, this organization is really helping a lot of these stay afloat. Like, do you remember that call that it's like, man, we really got to do something, especially now during this whole funding freeze? And it's crazy because I actually just read another article that was, especially in Orlando where I'm located, I think like 500 teachers in Central Florida are going to be cut due to government funding as well. So it's really affecting a lot of different spaces, but especially ones that you work with. Do you remember that call that was just kind of really hard?
Yeah, we've had, unfortunately, too many of those calls lately. We have one of our organizations, their name's Mary's Mercy, very close to their executive director, Dan Flores. They recently learned, I believe at the beginning of April, that the SAMHSA funding for one of their programs, their women and children's shelter, was being cut, and it was retroactive. And so they had a month to really like scramble and try to find coverage. He was out, looking for additional donors and grant opportunities. And it was an opportunity for us as pair team where they were already partnered with us on one program. And I came to him and I said, like, what can we do? Like, what can we stand up immediately to where we're able to, we're not going to be able to bridge the entire cost. And that's like part of the work that we're trying to do. But what we can do is make an impact and actually show up for that organization. And so that's what we're doing. They're actually going live next week with that program. And so I was really happy to be able to do that. But literally as recent as yesterday, I learned one of our other programs in Alameda County, Building Opportunities for Self-Sufficiency, BOSS, who are working with the recently incarcerated and justice involved population. They had a huge grant that was just kind of like upwards of 640 grand. And that's going to impact them. And I have a meeting with them today to say the exact same thing, which is that you're already working with us. How can we amplify our impact and drive more resources to you and also amplify their voice? I think, I can't say this in more of like a grander statement, but I think a lot of individuals may assume that they don't benefit somehow from nonprofits. Well, I don't go and get that food box, so that organization isn't necessarily like, okay, if it goes away tomorrow, like how does it impact me? But the thing is like these organizations are the fabric of our entire communities. They are who, I grew up going to a Boys and Girls Club. That shaped who I was. There's so many children out there that don't have parents that can show up for them because their parents are working multiple jobs. And so you have these organizations that are supporting us all the way from like being a child through adulthood. And I think we just cannot discount the impact that they are making in our communities just because we don't perceive ourselves as directly benefiting from them. It is a community approach that these organizations are taking. They are serving everyone. And that's something that we all benefit from.
It seems like some of your days can be a little bit chaos, right? How do you work through it? How do you still show up and show up with hope at that?
Yeah, and that is what it is. And it is me seeing these executive directors and these leaders at these nonprofits who are in the most dire straits for their organizations, and they still have hope. And at the end of the day, if they are able to figure out ways through this, then who am I to be, to feel discouraged? And I think
Right.
it is our partners and their steadfastness and their passion and their mission for serving others that is just it's so inspirational for the rest of us. And that's actually like what keeps me coming back to like continuing to support our nonprofit organizations, is that there's so much hope, and in a time where it feels like that hope can be lost in different areas of our lives, to work with organizations so closely that just believe that this is the right thing to do and that there will be a way through, is the best encouragement that I could ever have.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying the podcast, we first want to say thank you. And we also just want to give you a little insight of what we're up to at Francis. Some don't even realize that we're working with organizations to help them use AI to create that real human communication experiences, whether it's actually supporting your families, those patients, or the entire community. We're actually creating tech that connects. Check it out, francis.ai. I see a lot of nonprofits also, especially now, we're trying to figure out what is next. Is that they're also leaning towards AI, trying to figure out how AI can be that difference maker for us, to save us time. Individuals that may be cutting their grant writers, how do I continue to do this with AI?
Yeah.
And it's been a buzzword for some time, but how are you guys using it, and how do you tell your partners to use AI and leverage this to kind of help in the sense of day-to-day admin?
Yeah. So here at Pair Team, we're leveraging AI currently internally for our care team as a co-pilot to automate some of the more administrative tasks that were taking up a bunch of their time, so that they can devote more of their attention and their care to our patients, spend more time with them, serve more patients. That's how AI is expanding and increasing our efficiency, and our ability to scale. For our nonprofit partners, there is, of course, and I think even for me when I started using like ChatGPT, for example, there is a stigma of like, okay, like what's going to happen with this information? Where is it going? But what we're able to see is that it's just allowing us to like serve more individuals, like provide better services. It's really just allowing us to be more efficient and scale. And so that's what I want to bring to the community network that we're powering, is how can we, in our products, for example, how can we leverage AI to pull the closest like and the most applicable grant opportunities for them? How can we leverage that to say like, here's the grants that you should apply for, and also like, here's the data, since you've been working with us, this is what you should be using to inform those grant opportunities, right? Because for a lot of nonprofits, if it's not federal funding, it is through these grant opportunities that they're able to sustain themselves. And so if we can develop a tool that feeds that information directly to them and allows them to leverage that so that they're able to serve more individuals, able to keep their doors open, to me, that's the best use case for AI right now.
How do you flip the conversation though when you have leaders that are still in fear, especially when they hear automation or they hear AI? Like how are you telling them, hey, AI is actually a tool, is not a replacement of a human, but it's allowing you to do better and things faster and get more creative and see things differently?
Yeah.
How are you flipping that conversation?
I tend to, with anyone, I tend to show and not tell. I think that it's one thing from my experience and my point of view, but the best thing to do with leaders, especially in the nonprofit sector, is to literally show them, pull it up and say, like, here's what it can do. Look how quick it is for you. Look how, like, that would have taken you hours. You would have had been working your evenings and you're already doing that, to come to that conclusion, to get that data point. But let me show you exactly how you can do that. And I think, too, like, that is how, with any organization, nonprofit or for-profit, change is hard. And change, especially when there can be stigma around it, it can be even more difficult. But the thing that I know is that these leaders, the sector of like services, they are capable. We should never underestimate what nonprofits are able to do. And so they are just equally as part of the AI conversation as any other organization.
If you could think about a dream AI function that could be used to save organization hours and still feel human. What does that actually look like from Megan's point of view, getting creative here?
Yeah, like my magic wand moment.
Yeah, yeah.
I think about a tool that not only is allowing organizations to better capture the patients and clients that they're serving, and that's demographic information, that's the services that have been provided, that's the hours that their team is spending with patients, and you'll be able
Mhm.
to derive opportunities for efficiencies there when you're able to say like, oh, this case manager has this caseload and this one has that. Like, how can we even that out, right? It just allows you from um, um, a macro level view to see what's going on with your organization. And so that's maybe like optimization of current state. What I
Mhm.
also envision is how are we optimizing for future state? How are we increasing our capacity to serve more? How are we able to take our data, leverage that data to derive health outcomes? How we're able to, from a social service perspective, decrease ED admissions, improve health outcomes, improve someone's A1C score. That's important data, and the better that we can help nonprofits tie their social impact to someone's overall health is one of the best use cases for AI. And that's true. We know that that's true. We
Yeah.
know that 80% of someone's health is determined by their social health outcomes. And so
Mhm.
we need to equip our nonprofit partners with being able to say that in a way where it's driving impact for their organization and it's driving value in terms of dollars back to their organization.
I love that. You're really building something that didn't exist right before.
Right.
What's your biggest growth moment thus far being with this organization?
Yeah, that's a good question. Really, when I came to Pair Team, we were building a lot of our functions 0 to 1, which means like
Mhm.
we are building, the quintessential saying of building the ship or plane while you're flying it. That was
Mhm.
very true when I first got here, and but I felt energized by that. I felt that I was able to problem solve very
Mhm.
quickly. And really leverage an incredible team here at Pair Team of extremely smart individuals in the backgrounds where they come from, and coming into an organization that was so mission oriented was very powerful for me. I think we can often get and it's understandable, businesses need to stay afloat as well, but we can often only focus on the bottom line, only focus on the finances, and to be able to marry the two of those together of like, yes, we have our revenue goals at the end of the day, but also every single town hall we do here at Pair Team is a patient story. How have we as an organization been able to impact someone's life? And you can never lose sight of that. That always has
Mhm.
to be why you wake up and do what you do at the end of the day. So that's been extremely critical for me in my role here. But it's also been, I think you always just have to keep that in mind. It's scrappy. We're all working really hard to continue to build that ship. But as long as I consider myself not only in what my nonprofit partners are experiencing, if they can get up every day and do what they do
Mhm.
with the teams that they have, and they are so, a lot of these organizations are under resourced and they're doing more
Mhm.
with less. So if they can do it, why can't I?
I agree. I agree. And what's one piece? I mean, your leadership skills, just talking to you, it's so on point. But what is the feedbacks that you hear that really change how you show up as a leader? I can only imagine there was people that were pouring into you as you're also, scaling.
Hmm.
What was that feedback that really just shifted a mindset and allowed you to really think different?
Yeah, when I was told by some of our earliest partners that they had never had a seat at the table before in this way, when they didn't ever feel like they were part of these conversations, not only being able to participate in programs that are able to pay them, being able to participate in programs that genuinely care about the clients that they serve and allowing those clients to access whole person care with Pair Team,
Mhm.
they truly felt heard for the first time in a long time. They felt like someone was advocating for them. And so continuing to hear that from partners is continuing to keep me like grinding forward and continuing to expand our network, because I've built community-based networks in the past. And I've
Mhm.
seen just the power of these nonprofits, and now specifically to be able to empower them and continue to give them a platform to amplify their voice, especially now, it's the perfect time for me to be where I am at the company that I'm at, and for Pair Team in general to be doing what we are doing in these communities. It's the best use of our mission right now.
You're on a roll right now, man. We talked about it a little earlier. You're a mother, which is one of the
Yeah.
hardest jobs ever.
Yeah.
You have this mission, and you have a seat at the tech table.
Yeah.
And then, as a woman, I can only imagine there's probably some challenges there. But what grounds you when things start to get loud, when things start to feel a little bit overwhelming?
Yeah, I think being a mother and having small children, as we talked about, it's so important because at the end of the day, when you log off that computer or you
Hmm.
put your phone somewhere so you don't hear your Slack blowing up, you have these kids that do not care about what just happened to you at work. They are like, no, 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 like you're mine now, and so you really do have to be able to compartmentalize and
Yeah.
ultimately prioritize what means the most in your life. And at the end of the day, I have to show up for those boys when they want to go play soccer in the backyard for 2 hours after work. Like, you bet that I'm like putting on the tennis shoes and like that's where I am.
You
And
got no
it allows
choice.
me to be it allows me to be a better leader at work, not only for my teams, really supporting them, leading with vulnerability, allowing them to have bad days because we're all going to have them, and not making them feel less than for that. And then that shows up how I present externally too. It's just
Yeah.
this like consistent positivity that I tend to have, and not in a way where I'm not acutely aware of everything that's going on, but it is my responsibility to show up for others, because of how they show up for me and how they pour into me.
I'm a big believer, especially when I got kids, that it's not even about us,
And not
right?
anymore. No.
It's so much about, and yes, our own kids, but it's also about those that come after us, right? Our youth in general,
Yeah.
or our communities that may not be able to live the life to show up to their families,
Yeah.
show up to a home, show up to food in the kitchen. Like, it's not about us, right? The work that we've now do when we're mission driven, where we want to make a difference, where you're helping nonprofits continue to make the difference in the community.
Yeah.
So you're really playing a huge part. So yeah, it's not, I actually get upset when my neighbor, I go and we work out and I was like, what were you doing? Sleeping? And he's like, yeah, I was taking a nap. I'm like, damn, I wish I knew what a nap was, right? Because it's not about us. As much as we would love to take a nap when we get home, it's about making sure that our kids get to see. I mean, for me, it's breaking the cycle that our kids get to see what mom and dad can do together,
Yeah.
what it looks like to spend time with mom and dad. Because some of us didn't grow up like that. I
Yeah.
didn't grow up with mom hanging out with me outside, but
That's
I
right.
do. I'll see her spend hours and run back up and down the hill, and whatever my daughter wants to do. Because I told you she's in control. So if she wants to ride a scooter, and then we come back, it's okay. Now I just want to take a walk.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do, I guess. We're gonna, as tired as you are, you got to show up.
Got it.
So I love it.
It's
For
important.
somebody that's listening, who maybe someone that has no ties to healthcare,
Mhm.
but they care about what you're building.
Yeah.
How can they get involved? How can they do more, whether it's helping you in the organization, or you guys in the organization, or even helping nonprofits? How do you tell them to get involved without having to donate money?
Yeah, I think your time is one of the most valuable things that you can give. Back before I even got into like the health tech space, I was
Hmm.
volunteering a lot. Volunteering at food banks, Interfaith Food Shuttle here in North Carolina, shout out. It was so important for me to give my time back. Not only because of how I grew up benefiting from programs like the Boys and Girls Club at the YMCA, I was able to see not only a diversity of people that I was around, but also a diversity of thought, and a diversity of lived experience. And that for me was the best lesson learned, that what privilege looks like, and what access to healthcare looks like, or to the social needs or a roof over your head. You cannot take those things for granted. And so that was immensely important for me. And I think through volunteering, I was able to continue to improve, not only like my understanding of what these populations are experiencing, but also just really help point me on the path of where I need to go, and in terms of service. But I think additionally, continuing to just be curious with the work that nonprofits are doing in our communities. They have their own newsletters, they have their own
Hmm.
coalitions where they come together and they share this. And especially now, the better that we can be curious and learning about the work that these organizations are doing, however we can support them, if it's not financially, if it's through our time, if it's through attending some of their events, that's one of the best ways to do it. And then use that knowledge to then tell others, amplify the voice and amplify the experience that you've had with these organizations, because that's one of the best ways that we can continue to support them.
Love it, love it. I'm a big believer in speaking things to existence. What do you like to see for your organization in the next 5 years?
Yeah, for Pair Team is going to, you know, change the world. That's what I believe. I think not only because of how mission centric we are, the intentionality that we put into every single community that we build, every single
Hmm.
person that we hire on our care team. We are so intentional that every person really means it when they say that they are here to give back. They are here to serve others. And that's the ultimate filter kind of for getting through the door with Pair Team. But we're gonna change what care management looks like in communities. We're gonna change what it means to actually improve health outcomes because we know acutely that it is the social support, the social infrastructure that's going to support someone. Someone's not going to care about their hypertension if they're hungry, right? And if you can
Yeah,
focus on both of those problems and scale a business around those problems, then we can only go up from here. And I'm just so proud to be working with this organization because not only are we supporting leaders internally, giving them platforms to share messages like this, but then also continuing to invest back in our communities, continuing to put on community events where we provide resources, where we go to
hmm,
people's homes. That's one of the coolest things that we're doing right now is someone says, I'm hungry, great. Pair Team's going to come and we're going to bring you a grocery bag because that's what you need today. And we're going to provide you with that need. And that's just
it is
like
cool.
the coolest thing.
Yeah, yeah, nah, it is cool. I've been in the space. I mean, I used to do a lot of Thanksgiving and Christmas events, so you really got to spend holidays with some of these people,
Yep.
and just how grateful they are, right? Just for whatever it is that you provide. So it's pretty cool that you get to do this uh, as a job, right? Like it doesn't even feel like work. I'm just out here really helping the world. So I love that you get to do this. Some final words for those that are someone that's listening who wants to lead with purpose,
Yeah.
but just doesn't know where to start. Like they want to do good.
Yeah.
You have anything in mind of where they can kind of get started?
Yeah, as I've navigated transitions in my career, I think as long as you are staying true to what you feel like your personal mission is. And for
Mhm.
me, that is continuing to serve others, continuing to grow myself and always be curious about the best way that I can give back. I think if you always center yourselves around that, the opportunities, I don't know, something you said earlier about like, the good things will come and the things will
Mhm.
come to you in the time that they're meant to. But you have to really understand, like, what are you passionate about? Is it giving back into the community? Is it more specifically, oh, I have lived experience with cancer or oncology. Do I want to go to that sector? And am I curious in companies that are supporting that? Am I curious about, there's so many great mental health companies now that are providing
Mhm.
virtual care to
Yeah.
individuals in need. Really, I think, like, especially from a for-profit startup perspective, if you have a passion, there's a company out there that is supporting that need. And so what I would say is like really hone your mission, feel very strongly about what you're doing. And the more that you're able to speak that into existence and be curious and attend webinars and newsletters and read articles, I just think like knowledge is the best tool that we have. And that will
Mhm.
ultimately set you on the right path.
100%. I do agree. And when you mentioned, like, if you have a passion, there's an organization out there that needs you,
Yeah.
right? That needs your skills. And as we mentioned earlier, it's not so much about the money, but your skills, the resources that you bring to an organization, like all that is so valuable. One of the biggest things I learned because I'm part of a nonprofit, but I'm not getting paid for it. It's just out of the love of giving, right? But one of the biggest things I heard is like, no, your time is so
Yeah.
valuable. Right? Like, how many hours are you giving a month to this organization? What is your price tag? Like, think about it that you give hundreds and thousands by just showing up and volunteering,
Yeah.
by maybe reading a book at it or, to an organization. Like, there's so many different things that we could really help out. And people just, as you mentioned, maybe there's not education behind it. And I see that all the time. When you think about leaders in the nonprofit space, we don't have a lot of young leaders. It's people that have been doing this for the last 30 years of their lives, and now we need to get the youth involved, right? We need to get all this social media talent, this marketing talent that is so easy for them that they do it in their sleep.
They
Like,
really do. They show up all the time. Yeah.
come on over to these organizations because that's what they really truly need. And you see it, taking over the organization I'm in, it's like it's a 30-year organization, but they're also almost 20 years behind.
Yeah.
And it's because they didn't have young blood in there and just thinking differently or maybe using AI, right?
Yeah.
That's another educational part. If you just do a little research, realize that it's really not, there should be no fear, but utilize it as a tool in your toolbox.
Yeah.
So definitely love what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
But it's that time for the blind question. Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right, all right. This was a little easy. So let's say that we give you the opportunity to go ahead and put a message on every billboard in your community. What would it actually say?
So,
And this is for undeserved communities, actually, from our last leader.
oh, okay. Underserved communities.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
My message would say, it's a good question. Honestly, because I like believe so strongly in the pair team mission, my billboard would say need support, like need resources, pair team. Like
There you go.
that's it. That's like
Let them
that's
know.
the line.
Big and bold.
Big and bold. Like I think you just got to go with that message because at the end of the day, yeah, getting the word out about the resources that we're able to provide, the fact that our programs cost nothing to the individuals participating, the fact that all we want to do is help you become enrolled in our program and serve you. The questions that we're asking are saying, what do you need? We are going to help you get that. And that's the coolest thing. And I think to your earlier point about the youth and getting out there, the best thing that we can do, especially as parents, is to continue to set that example. My kids will know exactly what I stand for and exactly what I support because I'm devoting my entire life to that. And that's the best way that I think we can continue to become not calloused by all of the news in the world and all of the bad things that are happening every day. You cannot let yourself become not feel that. I think it's important to feel it because that feeling is what's going to keep you passionate and driving you forward.
Love it. So what is your blind question for the next leader we have here on the Hart Hustle?
Yeah. My question is, I thought about this, and it kind of goes to something you asked me earlier, which was like, what was the moment that you realized that you were on the right path? Like, what is the thing that happened to you? And for me, it was like when that funding freeze hit, and I was like, oh, like, and when I called them and they said, no one has ever stood up for us in this way, that was when I was like, this is the right place for me.
I love it. I do love those stories. I always love that light bulb moment because doing this, you're like, wow, how cool when someone finds their purpose and someone realizes, like, man, I wish I would have done this sooner.
Yeah.
And they move over from that for-profit space into a nonprofit, especially because nonprofit, we need some amazing leaders, and we're getting a lot of them that are coming from, these big corporate Fortune 500s. It's always cool to just see it. It just makes me smile to realize someone is living in their purpose and are happy doing it. One of the biggest things that one of the leaders says, he says, I wake up with happiness all the time. If you're not happy, why are you even doing it? And I'm like, that is so true. Like, if you're not happy, then why are you even doing it?
And that is your moment where when maybe that dims for you, that's when you're like, okay, something's got to, like, as long as you're always in touch with like where your passion is and where your energy is coming from, the moment that you notice that start to wane is when you're like, okay, that's my cue, either to look at a different career, to look at a different sector, or to give back in a different way.
100%. No, that was my experience. I remember going out to dinner with my wife and just hella venting about work. And I'm like, oh my God, I gotta go. Like, just knowing that that's all I could talk about, I gotta go. I gotta head out. Even I already knew that I wasn't happy, but found myself. I couldn't talk about anything else about how this job was stressing me out. And I just wasn't happy, or I didn't feel valued, or whatever that may look like. That is true. Go find other places that do value. In the nonprofit world, there's so much value there. People truly do value that you show up authentically yourself, that you're willing to fight for their mission and fight for others, right? That don't have the same voice that we have. Like, it's fighting for the voiceless at times.
Yes.
And that's what you love. Find you an organization that this
they're
is what
out
they
there.
do. Yeah, there's so many out there that are looking for you. But Megan, has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for being a leader to join the Hart Hustle podcast and really tell us what Pair Team is doing out there for the nonprofit space, and really just making a difference. So not a lot of times we have someone from your organization, such as Pair Team, that is really helping nonprofits the way that you do. So it's always cool for them as well. They always ask me, who's your audience? Like, who's listening? I'm like, nonprofits are listening. And I'm happy that you came on, because all these nonprofit leaders that listen, they realize, oh, wait, there's someone out there that is actually fighting for us. So make sure that you guys go visit Pair Team. Could you give us the socials before we log off? Are you guys on Instagram, Facebook? What's the website?
Yeah, pairteam.com. We're on LinkedIn. We're building up our social media platform, but pairteam.com would be the place. And that is PAIR team.
I love it. Love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here. Catch another episode. If you guys enjoy this, if you guys are truly just wanting to make a difference, all we ask is that you guys tag a leader that may not know that they have assistance, that they have somebody in their corner that can coach them to overcome what's happening right now in our government with the lack of funding. This has been the Hart Hustle Podcast. My name is Efrain. This is the leader, Miss Megan. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
Bye.
Laters.